Can you actually make money selling PCs? So I built my first PC back in 2019 and ever since had the bug to, keep building more, but my wife wouldn't let me because I already had a PC. So from very early on, I was fantasizing about flipping PCs. I wanted to just try different parts. I wanted to build them. I wanted to see what would go together and if people would want to buy them. I wanted not just to build PCs, but kind of the business side of it as well, just to see what sorts of specs and aesthetics people would like, performance versus aesthetics. So in 2023, I finally started dabbling into PC flipping and had a pretty successful holiday season. And figured out that Christmas is by far the best time to sell. Go check out this video if you want to see that. So here I was starting 2024, 8 PCs sold in the previous few weeks, thinking I can do this. So I jumped into 2024 very excited, very well aware already that this is not an easy thing to do to make a lot of money. First, let me show you how I made this money. I'll have all the main parts that I've used linked down below. These are most of the parts that I use throughout most of my builds. And to give you some cool statistics, out of the 21 that sold, the Ryzen 2600 or the 2600X version accounted for 7 of those PCs. 6 of them were the 3600, and then 7 of them were 5600. So Ryzen 2600, Ryzen 3600, and Ryzen 5600 were pretty much all of those PCs. Now there are a couple unaccounted for ones there. So those are the ones that work for me. Obviously, the other ones might work for you. I know people push the Ryzen 7 series a lot, or Intel, i7, i9, but price and performance, these are some of the best chips that you can get. And when you see the GPUs that I use, it'll make more sense too. So the GPUs, 8 of the PCs that I sold had an RX 580. I know in 2024, it's kind of this GPU came out quite a while back, but when you think about the fact that I'm pairing these with a Ryzen 2600 or 3600, and most of the people that I'm selling to are, parents that just want their kids to start gaming in Minecraft, or kids that just want to play Fortnite. They don't need a 4090 paired with a 14900K or a Ryzen 9950 X3D. They want PCs in the $500 to $600 range that they can find out if there's a marketplace and just start PC gaming, and that's pretty much it. The 5700 XT made up for about 5 of those PCs, and then the 1066 gigabyte version was about 4 of those PCs. So as you can see, budget PCs by far are the ones that we built the most. The biggest percentage of part that I used across all of them are definitely in the motherboard category, the ASRock B450M ACR 2.0 and the Gigabyte B450M DS3H Wi-Fi made up for about 85% of the sales of the PCs. So most of these PCs were MATX. Majority of them were fish tank. I'm a huge fan of those, and I definitely push those for any PC flipper. Coolers, it ranged anywhere from the stock cooler to a lot of Thermalright, Assassin King, or the X120 SE RGB, because for $20, $15 to $20, it just makes sense to get better cooling and better visuals, and much quieter. RAM, I don't really have a general one that I went to. I'll link the team group RAM that I most of the time will use, because they're readily available brand new on Amazon for like $25 to $30 these days. So I definitely check those out, but you can really buy whichever's cheaper. Storage, similarly, buy whatever's cheaper. I went from anywhere from a 512 gigabyte to 1 terabyte NVMe. I strictly did NVMEs just for less cables, fastest speeds possible. I know, especially in a lot of the budget builds, people will just do SATA SSDs, but I think NVMe is the way to go. The pricing isn't that different usually, so. The PSUs, the one that I used the most by far was the MSI A550BN. It's a 550 watt PSU, regularly goes on sale over at Amazon for about $50. And it's just hard to beat. Again, for budget builds, if you're wanting to build higher ends, probably go for a 650 or a 750 watts, maybe a good Corsair, Seasonic, Superflower brands are great, but you're just not going to get a cheap deal on those unless you buy used. And at that point, I think it's just worth buying a new MSI like 650 watts as opposed to getting used. Cases, there were a lot of different cases. I'm going to make a full video on just the cases alone that I use because it's such a fun topic, but we'll just say mostly fish tank. And let me just dive right into the numbers for you guys. 2024 was a really good year for me. I sold a total of 21 PCs. That's just shy of, 2 a month. And my total revenue was $14,460. Wow. Now, I know that's a high number, but that's not the money that I actually made. Don't forget, this is revenue, meaning this doesn't account for how much it cost me to build these PCs. So the total cost to me to build these PCs was $10,142.83. So when you take out my cost, it actually comes out to $4,317.17. Now, when you divide that profit by 21 PCs sold, that comes out to right around $205.58. So that is the average of what I made per PC sale. And that's even less if you consider the taxes that you have to pay for this. If you think about self-employment, taxes are way higher when it's like a contractor sort of job, which is essentially what you're doing. So if you account for about 33% is conventional wisdom, 33% of $4,300 is about $1,400. So you're really keeping less than $3,000 of that profit. And around $2,900 divided by 21, now you're closer to 138. So anything above 13 hours, you're making less than 10 bucks an hour. It's not really sustainable. So one of the most important things to note here is this is incredibly risky. I mean, you see the fact that my revenue was almost $15,000. That's a lot of money that you're playing with. And there's no guarantee a lot of the times if these are going to sell or not. So you have to get into it knowing this might not sell. And am I okay with that? And how long can I sit on these things? Another point is this is not a full-time job. I sold 21 PCs. I know a lot of flippers sell way more, but also a lot of flippers will let PCs go for like 50 bucks, 100 bucks, which I understand from a perspective of, you don't want to overcharge your PCs, but you have to account for the fact that if you want to think of this as sort of a money-making business opportunity, that people are not just paying you straight up for the PCs, they're paying you for your expertise, for the fact that they don't have to take the time to build them or learn how to build the PCs. Obviously, ultimately, building your own is the way to go. Way better pricing. It's not that hard. But some people just don't want to figure it out or don't have the time or want someone else to do it for them for the first time. So you have to account for all those things. But to show you that it's not a full-time job, in 2022, the median income for a single wage earner was $37,585. So $4,300 is quite shy of that. Now, my best profit of last year was a Sama Q5 build that I sold. It had a Ryzen 3600 paired with an EVGA 2070 Super. I usually list these PCs for 50 to 100 bucks over what I'm expecting to get because 99% of the time people talk me down. I listed this one around 750 and I didn't really get talked down and a guy just bought it. So that's probably why it's such an incredible margin, but the net was $275.65 of profit on this one. And my worst profit was the Game Max Mini Abyss. I have a whole video on this one in my PC flipping series. Go check that one out. This one just would not sell. I mean, it has a Ryzen 2600 paired with a 1080. I have 2600s paired with 580s that sell better than this. So I don't know what happened. It didn't sell for like 3 months, 2-3 months. And at that point, I just wanted to let it go. So I sold it for $540 for a profit of $98.33. That's just not sustainable. I mean, think about the fact that if I'm selling 21 PCs and I'm only making $100 per, that's only $2,100 of profit. That's half the amount of profit that I made. And that's just not worth it because the next point is you have to stay on top of it. This takes a lot of time. Obviously, you get better at building PCs. My first PC, I probably spent, I don't know, 15, 20 hours building the whole thing. Now I can build, one of these Ryzen 3600 and 5700 XT builds, let's say, in a fish tank case in maybe an hour. But that doesn't account for the time spent finding these deals on parts, time spent installing Windows, making sure all the drivers are up to date, time spent listing, waiting for someone to buy it, going out to meet people, tell them about the PCs, and then potentially people will inevitably write you afterwards and expect, full-on IT support from you, which I try to be clear up front that I'm not in this to give you full-on support for the rest of your life. I'm not going to leave you high and dry, but I tell people, hey, I'm going to support you for the next week to make sure it's all set up. You can, have the confidence that this PC is going to work, but then we have to part ways after that point, because once you get into diagnosing and if you even take a PC back and spend time fixing it, your hourly rate will go down, because if you're making, even if you're making $200 a PC, which I know a lot of flippers don't even try to aim that high per profit. And if you're spending $20 across everything, that's $10 an hour. And none of this is even accounting for taxes. So just keep that in mind. And then you have to relist these items. There was even a situation where someone wrote me about a PC. I said, hey, this is sold. Can I interest you in this one? And they said the link doesn't go anywhere. And I'm like, well, darn, that makes sense, because for a whole month, no one's been writing me on this PC. But I was just not keeping track of it and going and making sure people are looking at it. And if not, relisting it. So delete and relist. Keep items up for a few days after you sell. This, I've gotten probably 4 or 5 of the sales from last year alone from this. Just after I sell, I'll keep the listing alive for another day or two if it's been one that's gotten a lot of traction. If not, go ahead and immediately close it. Request feedback. Never forget to request feedback. But if it's one that's really hot, people are writing you left and right, then leave it up for a couple days, get some more interest, tell them, hey, sorry, this just sold, but I have another one coming up, or I can build you another one. Keep the conversation going. And then request a review from the person that bought it. Always ask for reviews. So many of the people that bought from me last year said they purely bought from me or picked me over anyone else, purely because of my reviews. The amount of trust that garners in someone that, you know, it's a safe purchase for them is just that value is immense. All right, overall, was it worth it? For fun, yes. For profits, I don't know. The reason is when you look at the pure numbers, you're like, wow, that's a lot of money that entered your bank account. Well, again, if you account for taxes, it's really not that much more at the end of the day. But you have to account for the amount of time it actually took you to build and sell all these PCs and do this whole operation. And you have to account for the opportunity cost. Now, I'm a happily married man. I love my wife. I love spending time with her. But this last year, PC building definitely took away time that I was spending with her. And this last year, in this video, I shared that we had a baby. And as our family grows, this opportunity cost is only getting more skewed. I'm now not only giving up time with my wife, but I'm also giving up time with my daughter. As our family grows, that's just something I have to think about. Is it worth making $5 to $10 an hour to give away time with my kids and my family? So if you're a college guy, or even better, if you're a youngin' still under your parents' roof and they let you, build a PC at a time, this is a great way to make a little bit of money while having fun. And you don't have to worry about any, costs of I have to make rent or mortgage and spend time with my family. Obviously, don't let it take away time from your friends and all this. Anyway, I can't get too much into the whole philosophical discussion, but just think about, if I'm spending time doing this, what am I not spending time doing? It can also not just be family and social activities, but think about the money making aspect. Getting a job is a way better way of making money. So if that's your pure goal, don't flip PCs. This is not the way to make money at the end of the day. One final word of wisdom for now, it's not to make this video too long, is don't do what I did, because I would build and try to sell multiple at a time. Just stick to one at a time, especially when you're first starting. It's just not worth the risk. Too many things can go wrong. Just find the PC that you want to build. I would suggest go with like a Ryzen 2600 or a 3600 paired with a 1066 gigabyte all the way to a 5700 XT. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Do it in a fish tank. Make it look good. Put on a cool ARGB cooler. Maybe throw in a Funko Pop. Some people do, some people don't. And sell in the, $500 to $600 range. And at first, when you start, it's okay to only make $50 or $100 because you're learning. And one of the biggest reasons is you're probably not getting great deals at first. I look back in my PC flipping journey, and there are some really expensive parts that I bought that were just not worth the price that I paid for it. So you shouldn't really pass that lack of knowledge to your clients or your customers. So start small, only one PC at a time. Try to aim for $50 to $100 of profit, but ultimately realize if you want this to become something that makes you a little bit more money, I would suggest you have to go minimum 100, if not minimum $200 of profit to account for taxes and the amount of time that this is taking away from you. That's it. All right, that was a long video. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. If you want to see how all these PCs sold last year, go follow the PC Flippings playlist and look through the 2024 episodes. This year's going to be a good year. We got a lot planned for both the PC flipping side of things, but also for Budgetiers, trying to show people not just the PC flipping journey, but also letting people know through these budget PCs that I'm selling and so many satisfied customers, you don't have to build 5090 PC upcoming. You can use a lot of these used old PCs, like in this previous video that I did pairing a Ryzen 5700X with a 6650 XT, showing that it can play 1080p high frames super well, even 1440p it can metal in. You don't have to overthink it. Anyway, those are the sorts of videos I really want to show you guys so that people don't overspend while building PCs. And also they're just smart while getting into PC flipping. So thank you for watching.